One of these cameras is well worth the upgrade and the other is not. I spent the last few weeks testing these here in Alaska in every situation I could to help you decide if you should buy or upgrade to the Action 4 or the GoPro Hero 12. But before we go any farther, I need to let you know that neither one of these camera companies is sponsoring this video. Starting off with image quality, both of these cameras offer great image quality if you're going to shoot in the normal or native color profile modes. They both look great. Even though on paper the GoPro has a higher resolution of 5.3K, when I put the 4K from the Action 4 side by side with the GoPro, I don't see as much of a difference as I thought I would. Now, both of these cameras offer a lot of different shooting modes, a lot of different frame rate modes. The GoPro definitely gives you a little more advantage because it has that 8x7 sensor, giving you the option to shoot vertically, horizontally, or reframe in post if you shoot in the 8x7 mode. Where the Action 4, you're going to be rotating the camera horizontally or vertically depending on how you want to shoot. But it does come with a cage that allows you to do that really easily with the magnetic mounts. And both of these cameras offer a log shooting mode, which this year is the first time log shooting has been available in either one of these Action cameras. The Action 4 offers 10-bit D-Log M, which is great. It's a very flat color profile and you can grade it really well and make it look like a lot of different cameras. And because it has the same sensor and the same D-Log M as what's in the last couple generations of DJI drones, you can make the footage match up to the drones really easily. And this is where the first big problem with the GoPro Hero 12 arises. If you're somebody who's going to match the colors up to other cameras or actually grade your log footage, the Action 4 has a much better log footage profile. You can see here it's much flatter and much less saturated, where the GoPro, I was shocked, is not that flat and actually has a fair amount of saturation to it. It's not that far off of the old flat color profile. But there is one mode that GoPro gave us in this iteration that we haven't had in other Action cameras, and that's HDR. Now, I don't shoot a lot of HDR, but as you can see here, it does preserve a little more information in the highlights and a little bit more information in the shadows. For me though, in the normal color profiles, I feel like the Action 4 wins because of the way it makes my skin look more natural. In my opinion, the GoPro always tends to tint my skin a little bit orange, even when I'm not using the vivid profile. So here you can see the two next to each other and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But like I said, honestly, either one of these cameras does produce really nice image quality. And a real quick word on photos. While both of these cameras do take great photos, the GoPro wins on resolution because it takes 27 megapixel stills, where the Action 4 is limited to 12 megapixel stills, at least at the time of this recording. But honestly, both of them produce really nice images, really great photos in both JPEG or RAW format, so you can edit to your heart's content and make them look kind of however you want. But the biggest place the Action 4 and the GoPro Hero 12 differ is when it comes to low light. And this is where the Action 4 absolutely just destroys any other Action camera on the market right now. Is the low light performance is spectacular. And the Action 4 gives you great low light performance because of a couple different things. It has a larger sensor, so that's a little bit easier to get more light, but it also just does better in low light when it comes to stabilization here. You can see where both of the cameras are set to the exact same settings, where the Action 4 is doing a much better job stabilizing that image in low light than the GoPro Hero 12 is. So if you're going to do a lot of low light filming, granted these are still Action cameras, so they're still extremely limited on what you can do in low light, but if you're going to do a lot of low light filming, I would say the Action 4 is definitely the clear winner. The GoPro, while it does do a good job and maybe a slightly better job than generations past, still is lagging behind in just the amount of noise that's in the image and its ability or inability to stabilize that footage in low light. Now, while the GoPro tops out at 5.3K and the Action tops out at 4K, they both do 4K 120 frames a second, but when you want to get that super slow motion of 240 frames a second, here's where there's another difference. GoPro wins because it does have 2.7K at 240 frames a second, where the Action 4 is limited to 1080p or HD footage at 240 frames a second. Now, they're both good, but you can definitely see a difference if you put the 2.7K and the 1080 side by side. The 2.7K is quite a bit more detailed in slow motion. So if you're going to do a lot of really ultra slow motion stuff, the GoPro Hero 12 is going to win. One more thing on image quality that the Action 4 wins over GoPro is the fact that it does a better job of white balance when you have it in auto white balance. And that's largely because of this little sensor in the O of the Action right here, which is a dedicated white balance sensor that gives you the most accurate white balance that I've ever gotten out of action cameras, where a lot of times I would see the action camera white balance shift from one thing to another if you shot in auto. The Action 4 has been much better at keeping an accurate white balance in all of the different conditions that I've been shooting in. And that brings us to stabilization. Honestly, both of these cameras do an incredible job stabilizing, but there are a couple of differences that might make one of these cameras better for you than the other. The first is that while they both stabilize, no matter how you're holding them, and you can run around like a madman on mountaintops like I do sometimes, getting great stable footage, the GoPro Hero 12 does stabilize in 360 degrees when you have horizon leveling on, whereas the Action in 4K is limited to about 45 degrees. Now I find it's a little bit more than 45 degrees, but if you want to get that 360 degree stabilization, then you've got to set the resolution down to 2.7K. And that brings us to audio. Now, both of these cameras do have pretty good in-camera audio. Here's some samples here. So right now you're listening to the GoPro, which I've found generally has pretty acceptable audio straight out of camera. It's usually not that terrible or not that bad. It's definitely usable. I use it quite a bit. And then this is the Action 4, which I also find actually is pretty good. I do find the Action 4 has a little bit more clarity to it and a little bit less low end. And so that could be part of a personal preference. But the biggest difference between these two is the use of external audio devices. Now, GoPro did add a feature this year where you can Bluetooth to it with earbuds or a Bluetooth headset with a microphone in it. The biggest issue with pairing a set of headphones to the Hero 12 is that there's no way right now to select the headphones or the earphones as the main audio source. It still records the camera audio, and so you get this phasing delay because you have two audio signals coming in that are slightly out of sync and slightly out of phase. So now this is the GoPro Hero 12 with my AirPods Pro. From what I've seen on other YouTube videos, I haven't been super impressed with the audio quality, but it is an option. One thing to note, and it took me while I was editing this video to figure this out, is that GoPro records 4 channels of audio when paired with a Bluetooth set. So you have 2 channels of audio that are still the on-camera microphones, and then 2 channels of audio that are whatever Bluetooth device is coming in. In order to avoid that phasing sound, you have to turn one set of those audio channels off to get good clean audio from just the Bluetooth set or just the camera set. So GoPro, if you can give us a way to turn off the camera microphones and just use the Bluetooth headset microphones, that would be amazing. Now the Action 4, on the other hand, you can plug almost any USB-C microphone in and get a true clean external audio. So now I'm using the DJI Mic, which is a great little wireless setup, but you get a really good clean audio overall. And it especially works very well in the wind, especially if you need to, like this little fuzzy thing works great, or if you need to put it under your shirt or under your jacket to help avoid some of the stronger wind environments. Now, of course, you can also plug in external audio to the GoPro Hero 12, but in order to do so, you have to buy the $80 Media Mod. And then we come to battery life. Now, while both of these cameras are doing a great job at battery life, the Action 4, I feel like, is the winner in a few different areas. One is that it's got the longest battery life of any action camera I've used. GoPro's made substantial improvements with the GoPro Hero 12. I did set both of these up and do a 4K 30 indoor test at 70 degrees, and both of them ran for over an hour and 15 minutes before both of them died. From an exhausted battery, I didn't have any overheating issues, but the biggest difference is the Action 4 wins when it comes to cold. So here I ran into my first issue with the GoPro 12. The Action 4 is still going great, but the GoPro 12 has 45% battery life, but as soon as I put it in the water, which is very cold, the GoPro powers off. So I do have another battery, but it's a little disappointing. Otherwise, it's been keeping up great with the Action for battery life. But yeah, apparently it doesn't like very, very, very cold water. So while the GoPro and the Action both had about 40-45% battery life left, as soon as I would put the Hero 12 underwater in that very, very cold water, it would immediately shut off because it thought that the battery basically had died. So the Action 4, at least in cold weather, still wins very much over the Hero 12. Now, I haven't been able to test this in extremely hot weather yet because I live in Alaska, but from everything I've heard, the Action 4 actually still does a much better job in hot temperatures as well. And when it comes to user experience, I think this is somewhat subjective, but both of these do have a great user experience. They both power on quickly if you do the quick switch button. However, The Action 4, I find, consistently beats the GoPro by almost a full second at turning on and starting recording when you're just pushing the record button from a powered off state. So if you're going to do a lot of that quick stuff, the Action 4 wins. But another thing that I like about the Action 4 over the GoPro Hero 12 is that when you stop that, if you don't want to turn the camera off, you simply swipe up on the screen and then you can go and adjust settings or do whatever else you want to do, whereas with the GoPro, you actually have to turn it back on and then you can go and adjust the settings. Now that's just a few seconds, but it is a few seconds, and if you're trying to catch a shot, every second counts. Another way that the Hero 12 and the Action 4 are different is that while both have a front screen, the Action 4 actually has a touch screen where you can adjust settings on the front. So if you need to quickly, if you're filming yourself and you need to quickly adjust some settings, it's really easy to do. And while both of them have a nice large rear touchscreen, I do find that the Action 4 works much better if the screen has gotten wet at all, where the Hero 12 definitely, as soon as you get some droplets of water on the screen, starts to really have an issue. They also both offer a quick switch, video, so you can switch between modes without having to go into the deep menu, and especially that's useful if you're underwater or doing things around water where the touchscreen may not function as well as it should. While the Action 4 does have that ability to set some custom presets, which makes it really quick to switch between, the GoPro Hero 12 does as well. It's just that you have to use the touchscreen in order to be able to set any settings like that if you want to switch quickly. And one more thing on the user experience is that now I'm so glad that GoPro has finally put a quarter 20 on the bottom, but we still do have these fingers, which are very secure, and I do like them when I'm doing things on the outside of aircraft or anything like that, but I still, overall, as far as for grabbing shots, I much prefer the Action 4's magnetic attachment. Now you can get the same sort of system for the GoPro Hero 12, but that again is an additional cost. Both of these cameras have an app that works on your phone and you can control a lot of different options and remote preview both of them live, which was not an option in the last couple iterations of the GoPro, so I'm glad to see they gave us live preview back because that's a really important and very handy feature. One more thing to note that I'm a little disappointed about with the GoPro Hero 12 is they removed the GPS chip, so you can't track speed anymore or location, route, anything like that because it no longer exists in the Hero 12. You have to get an external accessory for that. And then we come to price. And honestly, in years past, there's been a much larger difference, but this year there really is no difference. Both cameras start at $399. Now you can save some money on the GoPro Hero 12 if you buy the GoPro subscription plan, which costs $50 a year. And honestly, that's what I did because I do wreck these things or drop them frequently. And the chance of me breaking one is very high because these screens on the back are quite fragile. But I'd really like to know, are you gonna buy one or the other of these action cameras? I feel like either one of them is gonna do a fantastic job, depending on how you're gonna use them. Let me know in the comments below. Next, you're gonna wanna watch this video right here. I'll see you over there. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below, or you can join my live stream, which happens Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern, most of the time. Or we can have more of a conversation and maybe I can answer questions I didn't get to in this video. I'll see you again soon in the next video. Cheers.